Hey guys, here we are in this particular video going to talk about probably a topic that many of you struggle with. I know I sure did when I first started to have to wrap my head around how do I use this. Now in other programming languages or SQL or other things, it's a little bit more straightforward, but I'm very visual, and I think a lot of you are too, because that's kind of the benefit or the draw to the Power Platform is it is very visual, and we're not necessarily high-end code, high-code programmers. So while most of us can write maybe a little bit of code, trying to write more complicated things, this is where things start to go off the rails. This is why I hope you find value in this series. All right, enough rambling. Let's talk about GroupBy. So GroupBy essentially is going to take a table. Now, I'm going to call out a site that I use quite often for creating dummy data so that I can help either illustrate stuff or teach classes or a lab. It's really good for QA. Mockaroo is free, so I encourage you to use the free. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not asking for any money, and there's no affiliate links to it. Just go to mockaroo.com if you want to play. That being said, so I've generated 1,000 rows of data. I exported it out into an Excel. And what I did do is I added a custom column, which is a custom list type. And in that list of all 1,000 rows, it's either going to be blue, green, or yellow. And I had to just do it in a random fashion, so there's no rhyme or reason why it is what it is. In any event, I have 1,000 rows of data. I downloaded it in Excel. Now, the caveat to this is you have to open up the Excel document. You have to create a table. And then what I did is I just went to data sources and I chose add data connectors. And by default, it just has Excel Online. But if you click this down here, then you're allowed to import from Excel. And this allows you to add a static data to your app. I don't know if many of you knew this was here, but it is here. And it is a way of just creating a proof of concept. If you have stuff that you don't want to load in application on start, a lot of times as a trick or a workaround, sometimes I use this. Sometimes I get better performance. I can't tell you why. Maybe somebody, if Microsoft is watching this, they might be able to extrapolate on it. Or if you have years of experience in this and you know why, please comment below, because I am genuinely curious as to why this happens. Again, I just know that application on start has created a big problem for performance in Microsoft, and they've come up with other mechanisms or other properties for application to help mitigate this. And part of how I've been able to do it is by using or leveraging this. It works for me. I don't know if it's a secret or not, but it's just my trick I'm sharing with you. All right, so that being said, we got this data in here. And so let me just open up that Excel file if I can, at least so that you can understand or see what's going on in the data. So this is the data that I created into a table, and I just have an ID, a first name, last name, those random colors, and then some IP address, okay? So that's really the data that we're dealing with. All right, I'm not gonna save that. All right, I'm going to show you two ways of doing a group. I'm going to show you the simple way, which is basically as per the documentation. And by the way, ungroup, I'll show it, but it's simply just ungroups what you've grouped. It should be pretty straightforward, but we'll look at it anyway. To group something, now forget the clear collection. I'm going to delete this out of I just want you to see what you need to know for right now. And I'm going to get rid of this too. All right. This is a simple group function, and so all you have to do is use the GroupBy function, and it takes 3 core parameters. The first parameter is you gotta give it a data, okay, or a table, a collection, or whatever. So that's my imported data called mock data, okay? And then what I did is I created, I'm telling it which column do I want to group by, and so IntelliSense is really good here. It helps with this. So let me just click there. So it lists all the columns in the database. So IntelliSense will help you. And so after that, then I just needed to come up with a name and this is where people they don't understand it from the documentation. They don't understand what's happening. So until you've successfully done this and seen it and worked with it, it's not going to be clear in your mind's eye. I want you to think of it this way. That table that had those 4 columns in it, when you do a group by, it's extracting, it's removing one of the 4 tables, the table that you chose to group by, okay? And I'm going to explain something else in just a few minutes, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So when you remove that one table, in this case color, from the table, I have 3 remaining tables that's left of data. the IP address, the first name, the last name, the ID. And so what we're doing here is we're creating a subset of data, a set of subtables, because I don't know how many, well, I do know, but sometimes you don't know how many groups it's going to create unless you know in advance how many distinct values you have, and that's essentially what this is doing. It's taking its grouping by, it's going to get a distinct list of those and create a subtable minus the column that you're grouping on, and those tables are going to wind up sitting in memory. I forget what I called it. I think it was just like Macaru data or something like that. Okay? So while this is all well and good, you can see that the data type that it generates for you is a table. But it's not just a table. It's a table with just the groupings of this. And the value for each one of these groupings is a nested table. That's what this is, the MK data, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click this, but if I do, nothing's going to happen. And the reason for that is this is why I did the clear collect, okay? And by the way, you usually want to take this, and I'm going to copy this out, but I'm going to also paste it in again. I want you to see what's going to happen here. Oops, I did something bad. Okay, so let me do this again. On the clipboard, and I'm going to put this here. Now that I know that it's safely on the clipboard, here's the problem when you start nesting in functions. I'm going to do clear collect. Watch what happens to my GroupBy clause, okay? So I'm going to do clear collect. I'm going to use IntelliSense. As soon as I select this, GroupBy, the function's going to disappear and get wiped out. I don't know why it does it. It's a bug. It's annoying. So now my formula is all screwed up. And if you don't know that that's happening, I've been burnt so many times, that's why I know it's happening. That's why I copy it to the clipboard. I just get in the habit. When I start nesting and doing layers inside of layers inside of layers, I just copy it to make sure I always have a recovery point of a Control-Z or at least a Control-V to paste it. And it's a really pain in the neck. So usually what I do is I wind up like this, right? And I copy to the clipboard, I delete it, then I do a clear collect, and then I put my parentheses, and then I know that I need to create a name for the collection. I put a comma, and now I paste in what I'm going to nest inside, and then I close the parenthesis. It's cleaner, it's easier to keep track of in my mind's eye, so much better than having to deal with this stupid IntelliSense. And I know Microsoft, I'm not bashing on you guys. You guys have created remarkable software, but some of these little nuances, they just drive us insane, okay? So this is one of my pet peeves or little nuances. When IntelliSense tries to be too helpful and then starts destroying your code, it's not doing what it was designed to do. Okay, enough of a rant. I'm going to click this. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, hopefully everything I've set up into this point makes sense. And I think when you see this, it will be 100% crystal clear. You see what I got here? I have, well, okay. This count of column is only here because I should have restarted this whole thing before I started the video, but I didn't. Ignore count of. That's going to come in the next section, okay? But as I was saying, there's only two columns. You have the column that was removed, the color, and then inside of this is a nested table. And now you don't have color in here anymore. The problem is, in this context, you don't know what color it is because you may have forget which one you clicked on, but in this case, it's blue. So I'm clicking on blue. Everything inside of here is data where it belongs to the parent because we did the group. Think of it as a parent-child relationship. And because of that, all of these columns that's in here is now part of the group blue, okay? So that's all this is. Now, a better grouping solution, and the reason I say better, because 9 times out of 10, you'll almost never use, and I said almost because there are lots of other potential exceptions, but usually, maybe it's a better choice of words, you'll not use this function unless you're going to do things like insert and display or charts. So if you might want to do a pie chart, and you might insert this pie chart right over here. And now what we want to do is we want to display the groupings of this over here. So let's just, now with this, let me go back over here to tree view. We got the pie chart, and there's supposed to be an object in here to set the data. It's been a while since I've done a pie chart, so bear with me. I'm so sorry. Why do I not have that option in here? Okay, let's drill this open, pie chart. Let's try this. Is this the items? There we go. Okay, items is going to be my group, because that's what I created. See, here we got a group. And the problem there is that there's not a whole lot of data here. It's got the items, but it doesn't have the rest of the information. Now, if I were to look at this function, what I've done is I've used now a function that I've shown you in a previous video. I have done this one already. This is the add columns. And so what I'm doing is right before the GroupBy, I'm using this GroupBy. Remember what I had copied off the clipboard earlier? That's still the original GroupBy. I want to add a column to that GroupBy, okay? And so if we go back and we refresh, what it is about add columns, I'm simply taking all of this and pasting it in here. And what I'm saying is I want you to use this GroupBy as your data source. I want to create a column called count of, so that's the column name. And now there's a function that you have to do. And in this case, I'm just counting the rows of those sub tables for each of the groups so that I can get a numerical count, a value count. And so you can download this from my membership GitHub. Links in the description of the video. You can download this if you want. I'm going to click on that better group, and as soon as I click on that better group, notice that my pie chart starts to work. I can start using hover labels for that, but the reason that it's working is because I have some aggregate values now for it to use. Let's look at the underlying data. Now I got that third column, the count of. See, GroupBy works good, but if you don't have a count, you can't really use it in aggregate. And the pie chart works on saying, hey, what are you splitting something on? And I need now a numerical value or a numerical way of representing this data to the user. Unfortunately, the distribution of its randomness was pretty distributed and pretty evenly. So maybe rather than choose random, there's another one I could have used weighted or something like that, or sequential or another one. But the point is, unfortunately, it is pretty evenly distributed, so my graphic is as the way it is. But this is why I say a better group, and I would err on the side of 80% of the time that you use this function, that you look at and dissect, even though verbally I just went through it, but in 3 to 6 weeks or months from now, you'll completely forget this video, and you'll need to just download the sample code and or rewatch the video. Point is, if you're going to use GroupBy, also include or consider including that add column and an aggregate count of the grouping, because inevitably you're going to want to know how many's in that group. Okay, so I think this is enough for the video. Like I said, I'm actually not going to show you the ungroup function, because now that I've grouped it, I can just run an ungroup and it's going to split it back to the way that it was, and I can capture that off in a table. But I don't know. To be honest with you, I've not found a particular use case for ungroup, but I'm sure there are a case in the future that I may run across where it may be helpful, especially if you're going to do something really crazy or funky, or in a for all or a nested for all. In one instance, you need the grouping, and in the other instances, you may need to grab a value that you group by, and for that you need to ungroup. So that could be a potential use case. I'm spitballing. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. Thanks very much. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.